All right, so today we're going to be looking at population versus sample, how to make predictions, and calculating the mean and median. So a subset is part of an entire group. So some examples of a subset. So if I asked you to write down a subset of the alphabet, that would mean that we're breaking it into parts. So if I break the alphabet into parts, I can think that I have vowels and I have consonants. All right, if we broke the number system into parts, I can think of negative numbers, positive numbers, decimals, fractions, and I'm sure that there's more that you can think of. Okay, so shapes, I could break that up into quadrilaterals, four-sided shapes, polygons, more than four sides, three-dimensional shapes. So we're just taking our category and we are splitting it up into subsets. So if we are talking about collecting data, a subset is called a sample, whereas the entire set is referred to as the population. So a sample is part of the population. All right, so just to give you a visual of that, so the population would include all of these people here. If I were pulling out a sample from the population, that means that I'm just going to pull out a few people from the population to take a survey or something. Now, when we are conducting a survey, we want our population to be a random sample. So the group that we are picking out has to be random, which means everybody in the population must have an equal chance of being selected. All right, so now we're going to look at 6 scenarios here. You do not need to write all this down. Just listen so you can get the main idea of picking out a random sample from the population. So our problem says the senior class president would like to host an after graduation lock-in. There will be games, gifts, and food. In order to decide if people would be willing to buy tickets and attend, she has decided to conduct a survey. She will select 25 students to meet and give input into prizes, food, and ticket price. There are 500 members of the senior class. Now, these 6 scenarios here are ways that she could conduct the survey. So number 1 says she selects every 10th student as they get off the bus in the morning. And we want to know if that's random. So does every senior have an equal chance of being selected? And the answer would be no here, because if she's only surveying students who get off the bus, she's missing a whole bunch of students who are carpool riders. All right, the second one says she asked her choir director to allow her to survey the choir. So if she's only surveying the choir here, then she's missing all the students who are in different electives. So this would also be not random. All right, 3 says she makes an announcement that people interested could meet in the library after school to participate. So this one would also be not random because she's only surveying students who want to participate. So she's missing all the other students. Right? 4 says she meets with the counselor who selects every 20th student on the school roster. Now this one would be random because every student would have an equal chance of being selected. They're picking from an entire list of the senior class. All right, number 5 says she assigns each senior a number and then randomly selects 25 numbers. And this would also be random because every senior has a number. She's just going to pick a random 25. So any student has a chance of being selected. All right, and then lastly, a roster of the senior class is printed and each student's name is put into a hat. The principal then selects 25 names. So again, it's random because any student could be selected. So the key thing that you are looking for here is that every student would have an equal chance of being selected. That is how we know if a sample is random. Here's a problem for you to try. So you want to estimate the number of students in a high school who ride the school bus, which sample would be the best? So A, 4 students in the hallway, B, all students in the marching band, C, 50 seniors at random, or D, 100 students at random during lunch. All right, so in this case, choice A would not be large enough. If you're selecting 4 students out of an entire school, that's not a big enough sample. B, all students in the marching band. So again, that's not selected at random because that's only including one elective class. C, 50 seniors at random. So for this example, because we are including all students in the high school, if I'm just including seniors, then freshmen, sophomores, and juniors are left out. So the correct answer, the best choice here would be D, 100 students at random during lunch. All right, next we're going to look at making predictions. So our problem says a video company randomly selected 100 of its subscribers and then asked how many hours of shows they watch per week. Of those surveyed, 35 watch more than 10 hours per week. Based on the data, if the company has 3,000 subscribers, how many watch more than 10 hours per week? So the easiest way to solve these problems is to set up a proportion. So my first fraction, it says that 100 of its subscribers were surveyed. And out of those 100, 35 watch more than 10 hours per week. Now you're making a prediction that if they were to survey 3,000 people, then how many would watch more than 10 hours per week? So 35 out of 100 watch more than 10 hours per week. You want to know how many out of 3,000. All right, now recall from proportions that there are 2 ways that we can solve this. So we can say to get from 100 to 3,000, I have to multiply by 30. And then I would do the same thing up top. So 35 times 30 is going to give me an answer of 1,050. If that's confusing, remember that you can also cross multiply. So to cross multiply, I simply go diagonal in the fractions. So 35 times 3,000 would give us 105,000. And then 100 times x gives us 100x. And then think back to our equations. So to get the variable by itself, I need to divide by 100. Either way, you should get 1,050 for your answer. All right, so our next problem says, below is the data collected from a random sample of 80 students regarding their elective preference. If the entire school has 400 students, then what is a reasonable estimate for the number of students who prefer music? So we're looking at students who prefer music. So if I look in the table, it says that 14 students prefer music. So that is 14 out of 80 students. You're predicting that out of 400 students, how many would prefer music? All right, go ahead and solve this proportion. Right, and you should get that out of 400 students, 70 would prefer music. Right, our next question says students who did not prefer PE make up what % of the survey? Okay, so the key thing here is did not prefer PE. So if we know that 38 students did prefer PE, that means that out of 80 students, 42 of them did not prefer PE. So 42 out of 80 did not prefer PE. And since percent is out of 100, we would want to know how many out of 100 did not prefer PE. All right, go ahead and solve this proportion. If you don't know how to easily get from 80 to 100, remember you can cross multiply. All right, and when you solve, you should get 52.5. So since we can't have half of a student, we would round that up to about 53 students. Right, and then our next question says, of the 400 students, what is a reasonable estimate for the number of students who will not select art? So if they're not selecting art, it means that they would select PE or music. Right, so that means that 52 out of 80 students would not select art. You want to know how many out of 400. Go ahead and solve this proportion. All right, and you should get 260 students. All right, next we're going to look at calculating mean, median, mode, and range. And today we're just going to focus on mean and median, but you might see questions about mode and range, which should be review for you. All right, so mean means that I am going to add all the numbers and I'm dividing by the amount of numbers that I add. So mean is simply an average. Median, we're going to arrange the numbers from least to greatest and then find the middle number. So mean is average, median, middle number. All right, so for this set of data, we are going to find the mean and the median. So to calculate the mean, I'm going to add up all the numbers and then I'm going to divide by 6 because there are 6 numbers there. All right, so when we add up those 6 numbers, we get 492, and then we divide it by 6, again, because there are 6 numbers there, and we would get a mean of 82. All right, for the median, I'm going to arrange the numbers from least to greatest, and then once they are arranged from least to greatest, I'm going to cross off from the left and right side until I get to the middle number. So I'm going to cross off 56, I'm going to cross off 96, 76, 92, and then I'm left with 85 and 87. So if you were left with 2 numbers in the middle, you're going to add those 2 numbers up. So I'm going to say 85 plus 87, and then I divide my answer by 2 because I want to know what's between 85 and 87, which means that the median would be 86. Right, next we are doing the same thing, except instead of the numbers being listed out, they are on a plot for us. So every point where there is a dot, we're going to write that number down. So we have 1 number on 0, we have 2 dots on 1, which means that I'm going to write 1 twice. I have 1 dot on 2, so I just write 2. Nothing on 3, we have 2 4s there. We have 1 6, and 1 7. All right, so to get the median, I'm going to add all of those up and then divide by how many numbers are there. All right, so when I add those numbers up, I get 25, and then I'm going to divide by 8 because there are 8 numbers there. 0 still counts as a number because we are using that value 0 one time. So we need to make sure that we count that when we're counting the numbers. And 25 divided by 8 is going to give us a mean of 3.125. All right, to get the median, I need to cross off my numbers on the left and right. So cross off 0, 7, 1, 6, 1, 4, and then I'm left with 2 and 4 here. So I want to know what's directly between 2 and 4. If you don't know that, then you're going to add up 2 plus 4, which gives us 6. And then I divide it by 2 because there's 2 numbers in the middle. And 6 divided by 2 is going to give us 3. So the median is 3. The mean is 3.125. All right, go ahead and try this one on your own and then press play to see if you get the correct answer. All right, for the mean, you should get 49.7. So when we added all those numbers up, you should have gotten 497 divided by 10 because there's 10 numbers there. And then for the median, you should have gotten 47. So when I cross off, I'm left with both 52 and 42. So I want to know what's directly between those. So 52 plus 42 is 94. Divided by 2 would give us 47.